So one final thing that I wanted to show you is how we can do data-driven testing in Karate. So at the moment when we're making our call, the post call to create new to-dos, each time that we go through that, we're having to write out all of the codes, like, the post, etc. And so it's quite a laborious process to have to go through and create each different to-do. What we can actually do is we can actually template this in Karate just so that we can make lots of these different calls in a data-driven way. So let me show you an example of how we can do that now. So I'm back here over in the code base again. I'm just going to close down these two here because we don't need those for the moment. And in our to-dos folder, let's create a new file. Let's call it datadriven.feature. We'll give our feature a name. Let's call it data-driven testing example. Let's also make sure we add in the background as well, just so that we have the URL. Let's just star URL and the API URL. Remember that API URL is the one that we're defining in the Karate config file. Now, instead of calling it scenario, we can actually call it scenario outline. And this is the difference for when you're wanting to do data-driven testing. So let's go ahead and fill in this outline now. So it's going to be similar to what we already done for when we're making a post call. So let's just do star request. And for our payload, remember it needs to have a title. So normally we would put in the title here, like first or second. But what we're actually going to do this time is we're going to parameterize this, and we're going to replace the parameter each time. So to do that, I just do hash and the brackets, and then we're going to call our parameter title, and we'll be setting this data in just a moment. And let's also add a complete as well. Let's just set all of these tasks to be false for the moment. Let's write the rest of our Karate code. So this time we just do star method post, and let's match on the response as well. So we're going to make sure for our response that we get some JSON back. It's going to have an ID. We're not going to know exactly what the ID is, but we're going to know that it's a string. So we just do hash string. The title, we do know what that's going to be, and the title is going to be whatever is set in our title parameter. So we just do hash title. And we also know that the complete will be false as well. There we go. Let's also check that the status is at 200. Okay, that looks good. Now that we've got our outline, now we need to put some data into that outline. So let's see how we can do that. So to do that, we just type the word examples. Then we do a pipe. Then we put in our parameters. So the main one that we need is the title. And that's going to be the title that we're specifying above. And let's also put in another one as well, just for iteration, just so that we can count our iterations through the scenario outline. Let's go down. Now we can start putting in our test data. So the first title will just be 1. It's going to be on iteration 1. Second one will be 2 and 3. Okay, that looks good. Let's also then print out this iteration since we're capturing it. Just say star print, say finished iteration, and we'll print out the iteration. Now this is going to execute quite quickly just because there's only three different calls that we're making. What we might want to do though when we're calling this is that we might want to have a pause period at the bottom. So we can basically define a sleep just so that Karate will pause for a few seconds, just because it will make it a bit easier to just watch this test executing basically. So let's have a look at how we can quickly add that in. So to add in a sleep in Karate, in the background block here, I'm just going to do star def sleep. For that sleep, we could just call a JS function, say function pause. And then we can just call java.lang thread.sleep. For the length of the sleep, we want that to be the pause times 1000. So don't worry if you don't understand this code here. It's basically just calling Java. It's just making sure that the thread will sleep for this amount of time that we're going to specify. And then we times it by 1000 because the sleep is going to be in milliseconds. So we can now call that sleep function. So we just do star sleep. Let's just say we want to sleep for 5 seconds. So that 5, that's going to call the sleep function up here. It's going to pass in the value of 5. Then it's just going to pause for 5,000 milliseconds or 5 seconds. Okay, that looks good. We can go ahead now and run this feature file. What I'll do is I'll just add the debug tag up here, just so that we run just this single feature file. I'll open up my terminal again, and I'm going to do Maven clean test, and I just want to execute the tests with this debug flag. Okay, so we can see here we've got logs saying finished iteration 1. It seems to be pausing for a few seconds. Now it's done iteration 2. And now it's done iteration 3. It's pausing again for a few seconds. And now the test is finished and everything's passed successfully. So that's a pretty basic example of how you can do data-driven testing in Karate. If we just jump over to the to-do application again and refresh that, we can see it's created the 3 different tasks, 1, 2, and 3 for us.